again and welcome to another episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. And today, before I get to the episode, I just want to say I'm very excited today because I just found out moments ago, before I started rolling, I'm going to the movies. And I'm very excited to go to the movies. I haven't gone to the movies, man, I don't know if I even went to one single movie in the theater last year in 2024. This will be the first time in 2025. Maybe in 2023, I think it was, whenever that Elvis movie with Tom Hanks, I saw that. And I don't know if I've seen anything since, which is a real shame. A damn shame is what it is. As much as I love music, that's how much I used to love movies from the maybe mid-'80s into the 2000s. Man, I used to be the biggest movie guy. There was definitely a long period of time where movies took over for me and took over music for the my biggest form of entertainment. Big movie fan. I could start a new series called I Want to Talk About This Movie. Don't tempt me, because I'll do it. And I really could. I have some great classics. So I'm going to see the new Mission Impossible movie tonight. So I'm very excited about that. All right. So now to the episode. I'm going to talk about Testament. Practice what you preach. I haven't talked about Testament in this rebranded series. I call this I Want to Talk About This Album. It used to be called, for you old timers, you veterans, this used to be called I Love This Album. I thought that was too kind of restrictive, because sometimes I wanted to talk about albums that I didn't necessarily love, but I just wanted to talk about them. So I rebranded it, and also because I didn't think it would continue for this long. I thought it would just be kind of during a COVID thing, but it's gone on maybe for far too long. And so I did the Formation of Damnation, which is my favorite Testament album. I did that probably 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know. And so this is the first time in years that I've talked about Testament, and more importantly, the first time I've done it as branded as I Want to Talk About This album. And it's Practice What You Preach, and I'll treat it as Testament being a new shit. I just remembered I have a prop that I needed. Should I cut? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do a quick cut, and then I'll come back. All right, now that I've got my prop, I can continue. So I'll talk a little bit about my Testament history. I did see them on this tour. I'll get to that in a minute, but I'll get to my first prop before I forget about that too. The first time I saw Testament live was on the tour for the previous album, which was The New Order. Now I'll go back a little bit further. I love Testament. I got into them with their first album, which is called The Legacy, and I loved it. That came out in 1987. I'd been a big thrash fan for several years at that point, and I thought, oh, this is the new greatest thrash band that I'm really getting into, and I really did. I loved The Legacy, and then The New Order came out the next year, and I thought, oh my God, this is even better. This is it seems like a lot of thrash bands, maybe a lot of bands, but thrash bands especially, really stepped it up after the first album. And so The New Order, I thought, was way better than The Legacy. And then this came out, Practice What You Preach. Preach! This came out, and this was even, as much better, how do I phrase this? As much as I liked The New Order more than The Legacy, I like this even more than The New Order. I found that Testament really hit their stride on this record. Practice What You Preach. Preach! So, I loved it. And I feel like they were kind of building towards that, kind of like, I guess like Metallica with Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and then Master of Puppets. Kind of like that. They kind of had, for me, that same trajectory. Not the success of Metallica, but well, it seemed like they were maybe going to be close. But anyway, so I love Practice What You Preach. Going back a little bit, so I did see them in 1988 on the New Order tour, and I do have my prop that I had forgotten was my old phone, which I powered up so I could show some props here. So I saw Testament on the New Order tour, and I took these photos. This was in 1988. I've always loved taking pictures and taking pictures of concerts. So all the way back in 1985. I saw Razor and Sacrifice in 1985 and took pictures there. So here are my 1988 photos of Testament. This was at a legendary place, I think, called the El Mocambo in Toronto on the New Order tour. Raven opened, And I was right up at the front, as I had a tendency to be at these kind of shows back then, and sometimes still now. So there is Chuck Billy there, and there is Alex Skolnick looking directly at me. I thought that was so cool when I was 18 years old. There's Chuck Billy putting his finger right in my face, which thrilled me. There's Alex Skolnick again. You can guess which side of the stage I was on. And there's Chuck Billy again. So a few pictures of Alex and Chuck. Now I did see them, going back to another prop, I did see them on this tour in March 1990. That's the Practice What You Preach tour. And here's my ticket from that concert. There it is, March 31st, I think. Saturday, March 31st, 1990. I didn't write it on the ticket, but Nuclear Assault opened that show, which was great. That was an awesome double bill for me because I was a huge Nuclear Assault fan. Never as much as Testament or Exodus or Death Angel, or, you know. But I did love Nuclear Assault. Oh, and Sabotage too. Yeah, it was Sabotage. I think Nuclear Assault, then Sabotage, then no, was it Sabotage? No, I saw Sabotage at the same venue. This is the Concert Hall, which is one of my very, very top favorite venues ever. Recently reopened in Toronto, same location, same building, everything. So I saw Sabotage in that same building opening for Megadeth. That's what it was. So this was, I think, just Testament and Nuclear Assault. And you know, as I have a really good memory for things, but there's some things that I just, like all the concerts I've been to, I don't remember a lot about them. Some of them I do. This one I remember two very, very minor, very specific things. Two things. The Concert Hall, well, one was Chuck Billy introduced, it might have been Over the Wall, I guess it was. He introduced it by saying about something like, this song is about jail. And he said, doesn't jail suck? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know, I've never been there, but I've seen movies and it seems that it sucks. So Chuck Billy said, yeah, doesn't jail suck? And the other thing that I remember about Testament at that concert, at the Concert Hall, March 31st, 1990, the Concert Hall, the stage was here, if you're looking at the stage. So the stage was here, and it was like a 2,000 capacity thing, and it had the floor, and then it had like a, you know, the classic balcony that went around from the sides of the stage around to the back. And at some point, I have no idea during what song, it was during I guess a musical part of the show, and not during while Chuck Billy was singing. He pointed up at the balcony up on, it would have been on Chuck Billy's, I guess it was stage left, so my right, looking at the stage, and you know, people sometimes, and the balcony was fairly high. It was probably 4 meters, no, maybe 4 or 5 meters anyway, up. And Chuck Billy pointed up and he said, "Look at him, there he goes!" And there was a guy that was climbing over the railing and jumping up, and the guy dove off the balcony. I think that might have been the only balcony dive that I ever saw at the concert. I saw some pretty big dives from off, you know, the speakers or the stage or something. Maybe not so much on the stage, from the stage at the concert hall. At the El Macambo, yes, because that was a small place. The stage was like less than a meter high, I think. But yeah, so I remember Chuck Billy pointing him out, "Hey, look at, there he goes!" And then we saw the guy jumping up and he dove off the roof, or not the roof, off the balcony. So that's my memory of this album, and it's a great album overall. I love it. It's, as I said, it's probably it's not quite my favorite. That's Formation of Damnation, but this is their, I guess what I would call their signature album. If somebody wanted to get into Testament, some young kid wanted to get into Testament, this is a good place to start. Maybe the best place to start. Looking back on it, the first album, The Legacy, at the time it sounded great. Looking back on it, the sound is not so great. New Order was better. I think this is even better than New Order, although this one still had, not as bad as the first two, but it had the drum sound. The drum sounded kind of clicky. It had like a click sound to it. But amazing. This is one of my, maybe I haven't sold this album enough to you. This album for me is a real classic. Formation of Damnation I like better, but this is, for me, it was the most important album because this came out in 1989. And something else I just remembered about this album, this came out in 1989, and I'm going to give you some more, people like to say fun facts. This is not a fun fact. This is a pretty mundane fact. but they don't start with an F. They're not alliterative, so people don't say mundane. So a mundane fact about this record, this must have come out in, I guess, around August or September 89. And because there was a brief, I hated cassettes. I think I've talked about this before. I hated cassettes. To record from the radio or record your friends' albums, they brought them home to your house or something, that was okay. But to buy, titles on cassettes, I hated cassettes. But there was a period of, and I guess this was in the second half, maybe especially in the last several months, 3, 4, 5 months of 1989, which is the second half. There was a period where I had to buy cassettes because it was getting really hard to find records at that point. I bought nothing but records up to that point. And it was not quite where I got to CDs. I got my first CD player in December for Christmas 1989. So I remember I never had this on vinyl, but I did have it because I was very excited about this album. This is one of the few that I had in cassette. The other ones, if you're interested, I had Faster Pussycat, Wake Me When It's Over, LA Guns, Cocked and Loaded, Dr. Feelgood. I think those three must have come out, I feel like they came out in 3 consecutive weeks, and maybe this album also came out around that same time. I think the first Shotgun Messiah record, which I'd love to have a copy of and do one of these I Want to Talk About This Album episodes about, but I can't find it for a good price. But I would love to get that first Shotgun Messiah record. Oh, no, not Aerosmith Pump. I had that on record. I can't remember. But anyway, so I had this one on cassette, and then later got it on CD. Oh, I should have got my CD out for some reason. Anyway, but this is just a great album, and a great album cover too. This was, I don't know what it's supposed to represent, but it just looked, it's very striking, when you look at it, and even now, I don't know what these people are supposed to be, or who they're supposed to be, or what they're supposed to be doing, but it's got this dark, ominous cloud. It's got the Testament logo there. Very cool. And this version I'm talking about today, and the reason I'm talking about today is because I think in my real time, I think they're doing the last show of this tour tomorrow, or maybe it was last night, or in 2 days from now. It's the 35th anniversary of this, although it's so stupid how everybody loves anniversaries. This album came out in 89. They're doing the 35th anniversary tour of this 36 years later. But so they were kind of on my mind when I got this some time ago for a fair price. So I thought, all right, I'll talk about this today, because Testament has been on my mind. And there's what the back looks like. All right. And this is a real step up in Testament. They were no longer just, and I'll open this up, they were no longer just a thrash band. They were like what's the word? Seemed like maybe they were going to be the next Metallica, because they weren't just pure thrash like Exodus. This showed that they were much more versatile, and I love Exodus, but they were much more versatile than Exodus and Slayer, and I love Slayer more than almost any band. But Testament really had it all. They had the look. And another thing about this record, let's say about this record. No, I'll do that when I get to the song. There's a song that I'll get to that I want to point something out. The reason why I'm wearing a Dangerous Toys shirt, there is the Dangerous Toys connection for me personally to this album. All right, so I will open this up. God, these episodes are so long and stupid. All right. Oh, so, and this is, did I show this? Orange and Bone Swirl vinyl. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm imagining it's like this. I guess it's like a creamsicle color, but orange and bone sounds better to the metalheads than saying creamsicle. I was going to open this up. Let's see. God, and you know what? Fuck, I've talked about this before. I can't stand people. That's not a Paul Stanley thing. Get your shit together. I don't know if this was from me or some other thing. I'm so tired of opening records, and I don't know if it was me that accidentally cut that as I was going down. I thought I was being careful not to. I don't know if it's just from the shifting around within the sleeve as it's being moved from the pressing company to the distributor, or the distributor to the store, Amazon to me, or whatever. I know it's a minor thing, but it's not nice opening up a record and the first thing you see is that the inner sleeve is torn. All right, so it is. So I haven't seen this, and I don't think cassettes had. Oh, let me see what the actual record looks like. This, I'm gonna guess Creamsicle, Orange and Bone. All right, so it's kind of a, well, orange and bone, I guess. Creamsicle, no? Almost like a peach color. I say it's a peach. There it is. There's that, and there's that. Cool color. For whatever that's worth. Let me put this back safely in here if I can find out where it goes. All right. And let me take a look at the inner sleeve. It did have lyrics. Yes, it does have lyrics. So there's the one side with some photos and credits. And then there is the lyrics. I don't need notes for this. I'm very familiar with this album. So getting to this track by track. So the first song is, I think, can I remember them all? Practice What You Preach. Preach! Perilous Nation. Envy Life. What's the fourth song? Blessed in Contempt. No, Time Is Coming, then Blessed in Contempt. Side 2 is Greenhouse Effect. Going backwards. The last song is Confusion Fusion. Next, second to last is Nightmare. Coming Back to You. Previous to that is The Ballad. There's one song that I'm missing. What's between Greenhouse Effect and The Ballad? Can't remember. I'll have to take this out. No, I'll look now. What is it? Why are you watching this? Thank you, but really, why? Oh, Sins of Omission. Yeah, I forgot about Sins of Omission. All right, so the first song is Practice What You Preach. Preach! The title track. Now, before I forget, I'll get the Dangerous Toys connection out of the way. First, when I think of 1989, the first two things I think of in terms of videos, that for me, the two videos that I saw more than any other videos, and it's not so much they were played that much on the metal video shows, it's that I taped them and watched them constantly, and they were this one, Practice What You Preach, Preach! And Dangerous Toys, Teasin' Pleasin'. God, those are two videos I used to just, I know every single, all the moves in there. I remember in this one, all the Eric Peterson is playing his guitar, going around like this, going in circles at a couple of points. Chuck Billy's is singing in the last, I guess it's the last verse, just so uncertain of your body and your soul, and he sticks his foot into the camera. They had some kind of crane shots. Man, I couldn't get enough of the video for Practice What You Preach. Preach! That's a classic thrash song. I would even say one of the greatest thrash songs ever. It's not, maybe it's my favorite on this record, but in terms of, songs that were almost like signature songs that people know just at least by the title, maybe younger kids know the title. Oh, Testament has an album called Practice What You Preach. Preach! But this title track is a real classic. You think, how does it go? You think your life's so grand, you don't believe a word you say. Your feet aren't on the ground, you let your life just slip away. Just so uncertain of your body and your soul. The promises you made, your mind goes blank and then you lose control. I never was the one to make you say the things you say, never seem to wonder what you say. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know, I love it. And just watch that video constantly. Great song. The next song is Perilous Nation. It's got that great kind of rumbling bass. A little bit of a strange thrash metal, I think, bass didn't sound like this bass intro to Perilous Nation by Greg Christian. A little bit, I don't think it was slap bass, but it did have kind of a funky. That was terrible bass singing, but All Perilous Nation is another great song. And Practice What You Preach, the song Preach, was not necessarily like thrash. Like it didn't have the thrashy drums and riffs, but it's clearly a thrash song. Perilous Nation did definitely have some, it was not the whole thing, but parts of it were very thrash. Bold are the ones who feel. Who dares to say what he feels? Revelation, man. Yeah, Perilous Nation is excellent. What's the really fast part? I can't remember. Yeah, anyway, I love Perilous Nation too. Next is Envy Life. This is another contender for possibly my favorite song. This is just a real, kind of a real bang your head. Again, similar to Practice What You Preach. Preach! It's not fast and thrashy, but it is thrash metal without being thrashy. What's the lyric? Really heavy. Regarding to the nature used for packs of magic, spirits from the vastly deep respond to calls from their broken silence. Make sure your reach does not exceed your grasp. All that is to be done before you ask. In a pact of evoking spirits from the past, have you lost your mind? The lost souls of time, Envy Life. And then there's a great, Envy Life, similar to Preach. Great backing vocals throughout. This is when bands used to have that. Testament for sure. Anthrax maybe started it. Overkill. I used to love these big barking, shouting vocals, backing vocals. And Envy Life. Maybe not. Just that one part. That's more like a Chuck Billy death metal growl. The life. I just want to start this episode all over again. I think I lost my mojo when I had to stop to go get my phone. Next is Time Is Coming. Yeah, the way I feel. This is kind of a political song, I guess. Up to this point, I think Testament was not really political. Their lyrics were a little bit more Curse of the Legions of Death and Raging Waters and things like that. A little bit more. Not black metal, but I don't know, something not satanic, but something like that. Their lyrics, I think, by this point, Time Is Coming, and especially Greenhouse Effect, which is coming up 2 songs from now, were more political, socially aware, things like that. Actually, another song too. But yeah, Time Is Coming is excellent. And is it this one that Searching for Answers? What song is this? It is this one. Yeah, Time Is Coming. Yeah, Searching for Answers to Make Life Complete. That really, to me, almost to the point of being a ripoff, although I'm sure it wasn't intentional. Death Angel, on their album that came out the year before, prior to this in 1988, called Frolic Through the Park. They had a song called Shores of Sin. And same thing, searching for answers. And even the, not just the words, searching for answers, but even the way they were delivered. Death Angel, Shores of Sin, searching for answers. Testament, searching for answers. They're good friends too. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but I always thought when I heard that, then and now, Death Angel, Shores of Sin. Next is Blessed in Contempt. This is the last song on side 1. This is a real, I guess more than anything, any other song on this album, this is maybe the one real true thrash song. This is a great, fast, heavy song, Blessed in Contempt. Side 2 is Greenhouse Effect. Greenhouse Effect is one of the third of 3 that are contenders for my favorite on this album. Sometimes, as I said, it's hard to talk about song. I can just say that I love Greenhouse Effect, and this is kind of a fast. It's similar it's not fast thrashy, but very, very fast up tempo in the vein of Practice What You Preach. Preach. What's the opening line? Our only hope to breathe again. That's the chorus. Fools, the ones who see the rainforest falls away. Again, that was kind of the thing. And Nuclear Assault was singing about this too, about the environment, global warming, and before it became this woke ideology in more recent years, Testament and Nuclear Assault and some other thrash bands were singing about the dangers of, the environment. Save the environment. Greenhouse Effect is just our only hope. That's screaming. That's a great backing vocals. Our only hope to breathe again, to stop the madness closing in. What will we do when all is lost? Environmental holocaust, our only hope to breathe again. Next is Sins of Omission, similar to, going back a little bit to, not a political statement, but more, I guess, a social statement. This is a song obviously about suicide, false sense of pride, satisfies, there's no reason for suicide, choose your mind. Oh, use your mind. All these years I thought it was choose your mind. Use your mind makes more sense. Use your mind and hope to find the meaning of existence. Sins of Omission is, that's maybe I'm not ranking the songs, but it's not quite in those top 3 as Practice What You Preach. Preach! Envy Life and Greenhouse Effect, but it's right below that. Next is the ballad, and let me tell you something about the ballad that I hated, couldn't stand. I was, I think, almost predisposed to not like this song. When I heard that they had a song on here called The Ballad, that's what it's called, I didn't like it at all, without even, and I know you shouldn't do that, and I wasn't prejudging the song, but I talked about this recently, that any song that has blues in the title, Summertime Blues, Skeleton Blues, Death Rattle Blues, Young Man Blues, whatever those songs, they just kind of make me have not a nice feeling. And I had that same feeling when I saw that Testament had a song called The Ballad. And I don't know if I knew that before the album came out or only knew when I first saw it. And the song, I like the song. It's okay. It's pretty good, actually. Nothing wrong with it. But I just hated it. Just to me, the fact that they called it The Ballad, it just seemed to me forced and like, yeah, because people there was some anticipation for a Testament, kind of, as I said, following in Metallica's footsteps. And at this point, Metallica had done Fade to Black. Was that only those 2? Fade to Black and 1? 88, yeah. Fade to Black and 1, yeah, that's it. Fade to Black, Sanitarium and 1. So there was this thing, I guess, like, maybe other thrash bands are going to start doing these kind of ballads, and none of those songs I mentioned are ballads, and this song is not a ballad. At least from my, perspective or definition, a ballad is kind of a quiet song, a love song, and this does have quiet parts to it, at least the intro and the first half of it. It is quiet, but to me, it's not like a love song. Is Sweet Child of Mine a ballad? Musically, it's not. Lyrically, it kind of is, and just the overall tone of that song has kind of a nice, honey, baby, I love you vibe. But some people could say Sweet Child of Mine is a ballad. I don't think it is. Some people, I couldn't argue if people wanted to say it. This one, I don't really think it's a ballad, but yeah, it really bothered me. It's like saying, you wanted a ballad, so we're going to give you the ballad. I really didn't like it. But, and maybe all these years have passed. I do like it now, but I think it's taken some time. But I have no problem with ballads. Some of my favorite songs are ballads. And even, when thrash bands want to branch out a little bit, Exodus never has, Slayer never has. Death Angel, they didn't do a ballad, but they were a little bit more broad in, let's say, by their third album especially. They had really changed their sound. But anyway, that's enough about the ballad. The penultimate song is Nightmare, parenthetically, Coming Back to You. This is when bands, rock bands and metal bands and thrash bands, when there were records, the last song on side 1 and the last song on the album were always kind of very often more of like a, especially for thrash bands, Metallica, Whiplash and Metal Militia, Ride the Lightning, not so much with that, because the last song was Call of Cthulhu, and the last song on side 1 was Fade to Black, Master of Puppets, Battery, not Battery, no, I guess that's not true. The last song was Damage Incorporated. Forget about that. So it was a chance to close either a side or both sides with a fast, heavy, thrashy song. And Testament did this with Nightmare, parentheses, Coming Back to You. Did I say that already? And I think I'm so excited about going to see Mission Impossible tonight that I'm trying to think of Tom Cruise and instead of Chuck Billy and Alex Skolnick and Greg Christian and Eric Peterson and Louis Clemente. But this is a real, it's kind of like that gallopy thrash. It's not like the pure thrash like Damage Incorporated or something like that. But it is that kind of up-tempo, very, very fast gallopy thrash. And then the last song is Confusion Fusion. They lose a point for this. I've talked many times about, not ballads, about instrumentals. And some instrumentals are great. There's that. But I often think of instrumentals as, it's like, we need one more song to filler. We need one more song to fill the record up. We've got this little instrumental piece. Let's put on the record. Or it's almost like, we have this song. We don't know what to do with it. Let's just put on the record so we don't throw it away. To me, instrumentals are almost like scraps, especially like this one and covers too. And there are some covers that are incredible. But when it's the last song on the record, as Confusion Fusion is, it almost seems to me like an afterthought. Yeah, and I do like it. Confusion Fusion, it's it's a cool song, but maybe if it had been stuck somewhere in the middle, it would have, for me, maybe it would have had a bigger impact. I don't know. But that's all for this album. This is a really, really good one. Not quite my favorite, but this is their magnum opus, some people like to say, or their signature album. No, nothing else in there. And I do love it. All right, so that's it. And they're not playing in Mexico on this tour, so I will not be seeing them. And I've seen them a few times. Last time I saw them was in Canada in 2015. My dad died, and by luck, I went back and Testament was playing. So that was kind of cool. Dead Father, cool band. All right, so that's all. Thank you for watching. This has been Testament. Practice what you preach. Preach!